Alright, I admit it. I'm a greedy punk. And when I mine, I want as much as I possibly can have. That's why when I go mining, I don't just mine with my fortune. I mine it out with my silk touch. And then I've even been known to shove those silk touch ores into an ender chest or a shulker box. And that's when I bust out the Fortune 3 to actually process all those ores to the lovely, lovely drops that we all want, including these yummy, yummy diamonds. But in order to process those ores from the blocks that are stored in my box to the stacks that I hit with my fortune, I've got to replace them. And that is what this is. By popular demand and great desire, I present to you Ore Stacker 2.0. Cheaper, faster, better. This is a machine that will help you become a rich punk with minimal effort, the dream that we all have on a Minecraft server. But first, we have to build it first. I'm Commander Tom. This is next on Creations. Okay, to start this build off, you are going to need a 16 by 16 hole, 2 deep. But also, you will need to be able to reach an additional 3 spaces under that hole just to assist with redstone wiring. I'll go ahead and put myself into survival to give you a better building reference point. And to actually build this, you will need these supplies. You will need 2 and just under half a stack of standard pistons, 1 sticky piston, 1 redstone block, 15 bits of redstone dust, a repeater, a redstone torch, 13 logs. Technically it can be any block, but you'll find yourself a durability advantage if you actually use logs. You'll need 2 stacks plus an additional 15 of detector rails, and then you will need just under half a stack of standard rails, just under half a stack of powered rails, plus a means to power them, which will largely be the levers. You'll need a minecart with a chest, a few blocks for redstone. You'll want a couple of slabs for aesthetics. That's the essentials. Let me go ahead and show you how to build this. Now, I've gone ahead and pre-marked some of the key points in the build. In this bottom area, which is against the wall 3 blocks over on what I'm calling the left side of the machine, and then on the far walls 2 blocks over on what I'm calling the right side of the machine, I've marked these stone slabs. You don't need to color code and mark them, you just need to know where they are. Those rows will be where we have the powered rails. And then between them will be nothing but detector rails. Let me show you the first loop, and we'll give you an example from there. And then on the side, we loop it around with standard rail, powered rail down the row, detector rail for the middle section, powered, loop it around, loop it around. Now, on what again I'm calling the left side, keep in mind there is an empty row here. We'll be using that at the end. Aside from that, go ahead and fill in the rest. Once you've gotten the rails down, you should have pretty much a single curled snake-like pattern. The one thing you're going to want to keep in mind, I'll try to use my cursor to demonstrate, is that you don't have any loops in which both sides loop around. You're going to want to make sure that they loop and always go to the next further down in the row. That's going to be a solid single lane then for the minecart to travel on and activate the pistons that will be on top of each of those detector rails. Now this bottom rail, because of piston push limitations, that's not going to be accessible by the top row of pistons here. So that's why this bottom row does not have the detector rails on it. we just use the powered rails to boost it along with standard rails here, turn the corner 90 degrees, and return to the system. Now within this return to the system, we also want to build the shutoff switch to turn it on and off. We'll get to that next, but I wanted to give you an overview so you could see that for yourself. Again, I'll pop into survival build. Alright, from here, we're going to get just a few blocks for general building. Once I turn this corner, okay. Raise that up. And it doesn't need to be much. It just needs to be enough so that it comes up to what will be the floor level so you can work it on and off. Okay, and then what we want is for this, and I'll go ahead and pop that off and make that powered rail also. You want the powered rail to be after the switch. That way, when it's coming, it's caught, and then the switch gets it. Now, as we're starting to work around here, we're about ready to start dropping in pistons. Before we get that far along, let's also get underneath and get these powered rails actually built. I've done a little bit of mining just for lighting things up and to make things convenient, and I'll also show you another reason why we use different blocks for marking. So when we're working underneath, we can tell how far we need to put our switches. So I'll go down here, and again we see we have that specific block that I dropped. So that's where I start with the switches. And this is also why you need to be able to access an additional 2 blocks underneath the piston floor. Once those switches are dropped, pillar your way back up, do a quick visual, you can tell all of your rails are powered. Do the same thing over there. Alright, so at this point then you have both the right and the left, or the right and the left, or the left and the right, whichever way you want to call it. You have all the powered rails lit except for the ramp over there, and that's fine. Let's go ahead and get the sheet maker done, so to speak. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just be slightly particular and get one log down here. Alright. These marked blocks aren't for anything more than the fact that I wanted to be able to have a beginning and an end to this log that will be the system. So, one moment. This is going to be an old school bud detector. So, to get that, we grab some pistons. And in fact, what I'm going to do is drop in my first row of pistons here, so I have a floor to work on. And you'll see just what we're doing. Over the detector rails is where we're just going to drop them. Go ahead and do that for the rest of the floor. Once you've got the floor in, along most of the edges here, you can go ahead and take some of the block that you originally mined out, or whatever decorative block you want to fill it in with, but this would be a good time with which to fill in those blocks. That way you're not dropping into the holes just like I did. But just like that, go ahead and clean up the edges. Okay, once you've got the edges resealed over, you can see where we've got a pretty flush looking floor. Now there's going to be 2 corners here that you're going to use some of these slabs because of the connective redstone technology we have here, those pistons are always going to be fired or extended, so it's going to be less of a headache if we just go ahead and swap out those 2 pistons with just slabs, and we'll work with the rest of the machine. You're not going to lose that much volume of production. The next thing we do then is we set up a bud powered piston I call it the sheet maker. This is going to be very similar to any of the automatic read farms or stuff, pre-slime blocks that you're using. And then this is also when we start getting some of those spare parts of the slime block or the slime piston, sticky piston. There we are. Nope, wrong part. And then we put the redstone on that. Dust, repeater, then up here, and then we dust the top here. That, we'll put all of that into bud powering. So as they are experiencing blocks, you see it push forward, and that will help to create the sheets. So one of the last things we need to do, besides fixing my mistake here, there we are. Okay. Alright, so last thing we need to build, the floor essentially is the cube maker. This bud row is essentially the sheet maker. We need a row maker, basically a smart block detector. And since we have the ability these days, let's go ahead and make it a 0 tick push. So to do that, we leave one block space here for the torch. That's part of the reason this is a slab, not a piston. So we leave that, make a basically delta shape, and then in center column, add an extra block. Oops. Redstone, dust, 2 pistons, one for the primary push, second to make it 0 tick. That will then create the block feed to create rows, sheets, cube. And to give you an idea. Now, one thing I will let you know, because you are working with a block charged right next to this piston, this will make a spike. That's fine, it doesn't hurt anything. But to show you how that works, I'll give you an example. And I like to fill in this block right here. It's not technically necessary for any redstone, but for block placement assistant, I find it helps. Personal preference. Now what we need to do then is over here, and here I say, because this way I am not affecting any of the bud system or 0 tick system for the row maker. So I put my switch here, and then I'm still controlling the rail on and off. We then make sure it's off when you place it, and because carts with items in it will travel further, this is where I put in at least a stack of junk. And then we let it go, and we do a quick test to make sure it's moving everything up, and that it gets all the way around. If you follow the powered rail dynamic as I diagrammed, you shouldn't have any issue, but it's always good to do a visual test just in case you left the switch off, if you didn't turn it on, something mundane like that. Then it comes up and down. Excellent. Now you can experiment a little bit, but my experience is you're probably going to want to at least have these 3. So that would also mean 1, 2, 3. Put a slab right there. And you're going to want to leave that access hatch open for the minecart to go up and down. When you turn it off, it'll finish its round, come on up and get caught. Like that. I always forget about this because the redstone block is only here for a fraction of a second during detection. So yes, it is on this side closest to the sticky piston that it's not just the first one, but it's the first 2 pistons that we need to swap out with the slabs. And again, I prefer the wood just for it to blend aesthetically, but then what that will allow is for the redstone block to continue to move freely for secondary follow-ups, continuing to power the sheet maker. One more thing to do is a live test. Let me get that
This
prepped
is an
for you.
actual real run that I got on a 1-hour mining run on my recent actual initial mining run from the family-friendly gaming server. Obviously, I just copied the numbers to bring it over here for example, but this gives you an idea of what you can run in an average supply. Now, we have the fun of actually processing it all. Stick with
And this is what a 1-hour mining run average looks like. Now, this is, of course, something that I would probably go ahead and let build up first. That way you can get an idea of how it grows over time. Plus, as this cube gets larger and larger and larger, this is also something that, well, let's just be honest, impresses the server neighbors. Hey, sometimes you've got to earn the bragging points when you can. This is a convenient way also to store up XP. Keep in mind, this is going to be something that when you need a few levels for that enchanting session, when you need a few levels to actually repair your mending gear, this is a good hobby project in which you have these resources literally lying in wait. Now is a good time to hammer through it. Silk touch your ores out, stack them up here to store them, then fortune through them to actually get the resources or XP out. It's a beautiful system, plus, let's be honest, sometimes you just have to build a cool build to build a cool build. So I hope that helped. Again, if tips and tricks are things you like, leave a like and subscribe. I drop videos like this twice a week. If you want to see more fun like this, go ahead and hit the Commanding Crew favorite. This is going to be a great part for you to start checking out other options available. If you have already watched all of those, I've got something selected just for you. I'm Commander Tom, and I will see you next mine. Thanks.